Banks have their own risk management policies and things that they follow, their own internal policies. They've got state law they have to follow. They've got state regs, state banking regs. They've got federal regs that they have to follow. They've got bank secrecy acts that they have to follow. They have to file SAR, suspicious activity reports, and they have to make judgment calls all the time on these kind of accounts. The problem is, one of the problems is, passage of this bill puts banks in a horrible position because, as the bankers have said, 9 times out of 10, when they choose to either not bank somebody or sever a relationship with a client, they can't talk about, under federal regulations, why they made the decision that they made. So this puts them in a horrible position of not being able to explain the decision that was made, but yet leaves them fully exposed to being sued about it. If you look at the meat of the bill, and it gets over to the portion involving lines 98 through 103, and talks about essential providers. And by the way, if you're wondering why this part of the bill, or the bill talks about entities and utility carriers and broadband providers and your water service people and all these people that the author of the bill says they don't have a problem with it, they're not engaged in it, there's not been any discussion of it, well, it kind of makes you wonder why they're in here. But it answers the question of why the banks are so concerned about the language, and here's why. And this was glossed over by the author when he talked about the fines that could be $50,000. No, if you read a close reading of the bill, the damages that a plaintiff can obtain against a bank are his actual damages or $50,000, whichever is greater. Not whichever is less, whichever is greater. So what does that mean where the rubber meets the road? That means that a bank who engaged accidentally and unintentionally, because that's the unintentional portion, and made a mistake in doing something that is construed as having violated this portion, one incident, because if you look at how the definitions are run, one violation of any aspect of this bill is a minimum $50,000 fine. Now, how would you like to go to work every day and run your business knowing that an unintentional, technical, minor violation of a law is a $50,000 fine? And each time it's done, it's 50 more, 50 more, 50 more. Now, if you look down to the intentional provisions, well, it's a lot more. And philosophically, I don't have so much of a problem with that, making it the distinction, but it's $150,000 for an intentional violation. But you don't need to go beyond the $50,000 unintentional violation portion of this to realize why this is a really bad bill. It may be a good idea, and the kind of conduct that the senator from the 19th has talked about trying to prohibit, listen, I agree with that. I agree that no company, but let's talk about banks because that's what this is about, should be engaged in the kind of behavior that he's given a few instances of. But the question is, how do we fashion a remedy here? What do we say to the banks? Well, what's the normal thing that we do when you have a statute and you want to incentivize the ability of someone to sue if you're going to give them that? Well, they get their attorney's fees. Well, that's in here too. They get attorney's fees. There's also a provision that says that they can get injunctive relief to stop the bank from doing those things. But folks, when you're talking about a $50,000 minimal fine of something that small, that amount, of course, that's why the banks are deeply concerned. You know, we talked about the problems of social credit score. Where does that come from? How does one define it? It's defined in the bill, but it doesn't say who at the time defines it. Well, let me tell you the answer when I asked the author of the bill, well, tell me how that's resolved. Well, it would be resolved litigation, litigation, litigation. The lawyers are going to fight over that, whether or not, did the company have a social credit score? Did they keep records? Well, if they didn't keep records, maybe they knew that they were doing something wrong, and that's why there's no records on the social credit score. So we're going to deconstruct it and just impose. Well, what do you impose? You impose your latent judgment and assumptions about things that happened. Again, just more problems. You know, lines 59 through 61 supposedly would give us some guidance, but I would encourage you to read those lines and you'll realize, just as others that have, that you really don't know how this would work, other than, of course, our Georgia-based businesses and our banks, rather, are concerned about a $50,000 minimum fine for one instance of an unintentional act. That's not reasonable. So, let's talk about amendment number 3, which is what I proposed. What it does is it takes out the private cause of action so that it's not, let's call it what it would be, a plaintiff's lawyer's bonanza to go sue banks all the time, knowing they're going to get their attorney's fees and they're going to get $50,000 for any and every time there's a minor violation. This says, no, wait a minute. Let's handle this the way this is usually handled, which is you have the Attorney General do it. If you look at line 9 on amendment number 3, it says, in an action brought pursuant to this code section for a violation, and I'm paraphrasing here, notwithstanding paragraph 3, the Attorney General shall seek to recover $10,000 in civil penalties for the first violation, $50,000 for the second, and $250,000 for the third and subsequent violation. But the Attorney General may also bring the action without providing notice to the party he's going after, and may also refer the violator to the Department of Banking and Finance for further investigation. That's the kind of mechanism we need that doesn't send a shockwave throughout our community banks of being worried of yet this being another tort lawsuit bonanza, giving lawyers a chance to go make a bunch of money on minor violations, because that's how this is structured. And here's the other reason that I oppose the bill the way it's written. Again, the idea of making sure that our businesses ought not be discriminated against based on their political beliefs and the other things set forth in the bill, I agree with. I told the author of the bill that very thing in the committee hearing. But it's the mechanism that he's used of an elephant gun to go after an unintentional violation in a way that clearly is not fair or appropriate. And I think maybe we'll have someone else come up that will speak from a banking perspective that will tell you, and this is also the reason I oppose the measure, not the measure, I oppose the way the bill is written, because it is drafted in a way that really hurts and could hurt and will hurt conservative businesses, and it's for this reason. For those conservative businesses that want to have a relationship with a new bank, maybe because, for whatever reason, banks are going to be more concerned and less likely to bank someone knowing that they're going to be subject to a lawsuit if they need to sever the relationship for legitimate banking reasons, but they can't defend themselves and talk about those legitimate banking reasons because of the federal regulations. So it's going to have the opposite effect. Again, I'm going to close here. I know it's late, but you know, when we've got this many amendments floating around trying to figure out what this is about and correct it, that lets us know this measure needs a lot of work. But I would tell you that if you think you want to vote for this bill, at a minimum, vote for the Third Amendment. I won't speak to the others. I'm supportive, but I'll leave that to the authors of those amendments that have already spoken. But this measure does not address what it's supposed to be trying to fix. And with that, Mr. President, I yield the well.
All right, senators yielded well, and now the Senator, we're going down the amendment list here, and the author of Amendment 3B is the Senator from the 19th. Senator from the 19th, do you want to speak to your amendment, or you just want to wait till you close? All right, good. Senator from the 14th, for what purpose do you rise? State your inquiry.
Is this on? There we go. Parliamentary inquiry. Is it not true the minority party finally understands what it's like for the majority party during floor debate? Is that not true, Mr. President?
During what now? I'm sorry.
That the minority party finally understands what the majority party feels like during the average floor debate, Mr. President.
Yeah. Senator knows what he speaks. All right, Senator from the author of the amendment number 4, Senator from the 31st, would you like to speak to your amendment? The floor is yours. Be brief, brother, be brief. Let's get on with this.
So just very briefly, as the President alluded to, thank you, Mr. President, for the great reminder. The one group of folks that has not been talked about are credit unions. I don't know if the author knows, but there's 77 chartered credit unions in Georgia. And where I come from, credit unions are usually the ones that are setting up, for example, my kids' bank accounts at a young age. And at $1 billion, there's only 8 covered. I think the other thing, just as a reminder, is that whether you're Daniel Defense or you're Glock or those organizations, I'm not aware of a credit union that banks them. And if that's factually not true, I'm sure somebody will talk about it or let me know. The other thing, too, going back to the original intent of why debanking is highly political, is because of the work that U.S. Senator Tim Scott is doing in Washington, leading on this effort, my friend Tim, because of what we saw under Operation Choke Point 2.0 under the Biden administration. He and Senator Kramer introduced a bill that has 39 endorsers from the Republican conference in the U.S. Senate, and I believe there's a bill also introduced in the U.S. House from a congressman from Kentucky whose threshold is $50 billion. The Fair Access to Banking Act that Senator Kramer is doing is based on the President Trump's Fair Access Rule. So as we talk about, $100 billion here, $2 billion there, $1 billion, I advocate and ask that this body adopt $10 billion because what's going to happen through all this confusion that the senator from the 19th, no offense, you've created, the 10 billion number may be what gets passed into law because our leaders in Washington, they don't get much right, but I will give Senator Scott credit for leading on this effort that 10 billion is the right number, and we don't harm those hardworking credit unions that are in our blue-collar communities setting up these smaller accounts, helping our families. 10 billion is also, I know there was an NRA letter on the desk about this bill. The NRA also endorsed 10 billion with the federal bill, so don't be misled by that. And so I just ask you, friends, adopt Amendment 4, unless you adopt one of the other ones. I know my amendment will probably be gone. But, don't be fooled by the politics going on. Thank you, Mr. President.
All right, thank you, Senator. Senators yielded well. Now move to amendment number 5. Senator from the 50th. Senator from the 50th. Would you waive? Okay. Senator from the 50th waives, and that is all the amendments for right now. Senator from the 27th, for what purpose do you rise?
Mr. President, I move the previous question.
Senators move for the previous question. Is there objection? All right. Now it's time for the senator from the 19th to close debate.
Thank you so much for all the debate. I do want to respond to a few things. The comments about secrecy, the comments about the Patriot Act, the comments about banks can't tell you things. Well, guess what? That all deals with money laundering. Turns out, money laundering is not protected in the U.S. Constitution. As far as I know, it doesn't go in anybody's social credit score either. That does not apply. But let's proceed and just pretend that it did. If it did, lines 82 through 87 say, hey, bank, if you can't tell them why you canceled their account for these reasons protected by federal law, then you are fine. You are okay. There's a way to not get sued on this. They said it's become the debanking bill instead of the deutilitizing bill. That's probably true. The way to stay protected, don't cancel somebody's account because they're using something that's further protected by their constitutional rights. There was a comment about this as an attack on banks. It's not an attack on banks. It's a protection of constitutional rights. There was a comment about why are other utilities in here? If it's just about banks, they're not complaining. Begs the question why they're in here. Because guess what? The things we're debating on this floor right now, we did not think we would be debating 10, 5, 1 year ago. We need to go ahead and protect those industries now and protect individuals who are exercising their constitutional rights if they could potentially lose those vital resources that keep their homes, their families, and their businesses operating. The comments about this can be a $50,000 fine for an unintentional act. Remember that $50,000 is a maximum that is reduced by the amount that somebody came out of pocket because they got debanked anyway. They got moved. Marty Daniel told you for him that was $1 million. And the reason why we can't simply set aside and let this matter go to the Attorney General's office is because of the testimony of someone who already has a business in Georgia that they did that, and it did not work. There's folks who are for this bill. You already heard the NRA. The National Shooting Sports Foundation's for it. Turning Point something is for it. The Georgia Chamber's against it. But they say it's because it would create confusion. You know what's confusing? What's confusing is being a company that your power, your water, or God forbid, your banking gets canceled because you were doing something that was already otherwise legal. That's what's confusing. When we vote on this bill today, I'm going to ask you to support Amendment 1A. Amendment 1A. I know this is going to be a Christmas tree for you, so get out your pencils. There's a lot of amendments. I would ask you support Amendment 1A. If Amendment 1A passes, I would ask you support Amendment 1. If Amendment 1 passes, I believe Amendment 2 fails because it now amends something that's no longer there. But we'll see. If on Amendment 3, there's Amendment 3A. It says the Attorney General should have a right in this. They should have a place in this. But if they don't take their step, you should still be able to go hire your own lawyer to take that step. If Amendment 3A passes, I will ask you to vote favorably for Amendment 3. I ask you to vote favorably for Amendment 3A. If Amendment 3A passes, I ask you to vote favorably for Amendment 3. I ask you let all the other amendments die, and then that you vote favorably on the bill. Because I know this will get confusing. I will make points of order on how I think the bill should go, and if you wish to vote with me, I would really be thankful if you did so. Thank you so much for your time today. Thank you for hearing me on what I think is an important issue for not just protecting now and Georgia businesses now, but protecting Georgia businesses and Georgia families and their constitutional rights in the future. Mr. President, I yield the will.
All right, Senator's yielded. And the Senator has now closed debate. So we will take up the amendments at this point in time. We'll start with Amendment 1A. Amendment 1A. There is objection. Amendment 1A is authored by the Senator from the 50th. We have objection from the Senator from the 46th. So we'll go ahead and take up Amendment 1A. All those in favor of Amendment 1A will vote yea. All opposed to the amendment will vote nay. Secretary, unlock the machine. On the adoption of Amendment 1A, the yeas are 32 and the nays are 22. So Amendment 1A has been adopted. Now, with Amendment 1A being adopted, it pretty much nullifies Amendment 1, 2, 4, and 5. One is amended. Yeah, I'm sorry.
We still need to take up 1.
Okay, I'm sorry. We need to take up 1. I apologize. So Amendment 1, is there obviously, and then Amendment 1 will be attached to Amendment 1A. Objection? All right. So all those in favor of Amendment 1 will vote yea. All opposed will vote nay. Secretary, unlock the machine. On the adoption of Amendment 1 as amended, the yeas are 49 and the nays are 7, and this amendment has prevailed. All right. So now we're at the posture where, with Amendment 1 as amended, Amendments 2, 4, and 5 are moot. So now we'll take up Amendments 3A. Well, what we have left is 3A, B, and Amendment 3. So now we're on to Amendment 3A. Senator from the 19th, what purpose? You're right.
Thank you, Mr. President. Due to a drafting error, I'd like to withdraw Amendment 3A as long as I'm assured that the vote will now be on 3B. It is? Okay. And I would urge favorable
Is
consideration.
there objection to Senator from the 19th? All right, without objection, withdraw. Do you object? We do have objection.
No, to the withdrawal. So he's withdrawing.
All right. Now we're on to 3B. 3B from the senator from the 19th. Is there objection to 3B? There is objection to 3B. All those in favor of Amendment 3B will vote yea. All opposed, nays. Secretary, lock the machine. On the adoption of Amendment 3B, the yeas are 33 and the nays are 22, and Amendment 3B has been adopted. Now on to last amendment, Amendment number 3, authored by the Pro Tem. Is there objection to Amendment number 3 as amended? No objection? All right, it's adopted. Question is on the adoption of the committee substitute as amended. Is there objection to the adoption of the committee substitute as amended? Hearing none, the committee substitute as amended is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none, therefore the committee is agreed to. Question is on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor of the bill will vote yea, opposed nay. Secretary will unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 13, the nays are 43, and this bill has not received the requisite constitutional majority to pass. So it fails. All right, moving on. Recognize, Mr. Secretary Reed, Senate Bill 291.
Senate Bill 291 by Senator Gooch of the 51st and others, bill to be entitled Act to amend Code Section 40-2-86.1 of the official code of Georgia annotated relating to special license plates promoting or supporting certain worthy agencies, funds, or nonprofit corporations and qualified motor vehicles or drivers with proceeds deposited into the general fund, so as to establish in America first specialty license plate, to provide for conditions for the production of such license plates, to provide for discontinuing the manufacture of such license plates in certain instances, to provide for the disposition of funds to the general fund, to provide for related matters, to provide for an effective date to repeal conflicting laws, and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Public Safety recommends that this bill do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Albers, Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Public Safety offers the following substitute to Senate Bill 291, a bill to be entitled Act to amend Code Section 40-2-86.1 of the official code of Georgia annotated relating to special license plates promoting or supporting certain worthy agencies, funds, or nonprofit corporations, qualified motor vehicles, or drivers with proceeds deposited into the general fund, so as to establish an America First specialty license plate, and for other purposes. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Recognize the Majority Leader. Speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senators, I'm going to bring another book to the chamber next week to present to the senator from the 19th. It's called The Art of the Deal. So I'll be bringing that to you next week. It's not signed yet, but maybe we'll get it to you. Senators, this bill is a simple bill. We've seen it here before. We saw it last year. It creates 2 license plates this year, not 1, but 2. The first one is an image of the American flag. If you're a patriot and you love America, you're going to want to vote for this bill. And the second portion of the bill is language that you saw earlier this year from the senator from the 56th. It is a organ donor license plate. So by voting yes for this bill, you get to purchase either a license plate with the American flag or a license plate with organ donors. So, Mr. President, I'm happy to take questions. I'll yield the will.
You have one question, Senator. Recognize Senator from the 14th.
Does the senator yield? Thanks, Mr. President.
I will for you, Mr. Senator.
Senator, last year you had a similar piece of legislation to this one, although you've added some stuff this year. I wanted to work with you in the off season about maybe amending this legislation to make it better. If I were to offer a friendly amendment today to improve this legislation, do you think you would be open to hearing it this year?
You know, we've just been through hours and hours of debate on other things with lots of amendments. Let's just get through this evening, and we'll take this bill on over to the House, and we'll continue to perfect it as we get through the
Okay,
day 40.
not the answer I was hoping for. I'm still going to try to.
I appreciate your spirit and your love for your country.
Thank you, Mr. Senator.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right, we have a couple of amendments. Secretary, read the amendments.
Mr. President, Senator McLaurin of 14th and others offer the following Amendment 1 to amend the Senate Committee substitute to Senate Bill 291 by replacing America on line 19 with Donald Trump and on line 4. Mr. President, Senator McLaurin of the 14th offers the following Amendment 1A to amend Amendment 1 to the Senate Committee substitute to Senate Bill 291 by adding J between Donald and Trump on line 3. Mr. President, that completes the order.
All right, recognize Senator from the 14th. Speak to his amendment.
Hey, everybody. I certainly don't want to take any more of your time today. This is a very simple amendment. It just replaces the word America in the legislation with the words Donald Trump. Now, when I drafted that amendment, I forgot, unfortunately, that the way that the license plate, probably a lot of the voters will want it to look, is to have a J in between Donald and Trump. So I would ask your unanimous support of Amendment 1A to add J between Donald and Trump, and then I would ask your support for Amendment 1 to put Donald Trump in the bill. I'm very grateful to the two senators back here, the Rules Chairman and the senator from the 27th, for joining me on this amendment. We have very different reasons for signing the amendment. But the unity in our purpose is this, that we think the bill should reflect its true purpose as clearly as possible. And so in that spirit of bipartisan compromise, let's put the issue before the body that's really at stake, and let's vote on the true intent of the bill. I'll yield for any questions, or I'll yield the well, Mr. President.
You do have one question, Senator from 51st.
Will you yield?
I will.
If we were to pass this amendment, would you consider this amendment a beautiful amendment?
Well, it is probably there's many people are saying it's the best amendment, and I will say that even though I don't support the underlying legislation, I know other senators might. That's really the beauty of bipartisan compromise, is to agree where you can, Senator.
But this is your amendment, correct?
It is my amendment, and like I said, two roads diverged in the wood, and I chose no.
See, there is. Well, I appreciate your spirit of cooperation and bipartisanship for our country.
Thank you, Senator. If there are no other questions, Mr. President, I will yield the well.
Yeah, there's no other questions. He's coming around, y'all. He's coming around. He couldn't even speak his name last year. Now he's offering amendments for him. All right. Senator, you want to close the debate? You want? Yeah, okay, all right.
Now, I know some of you Democrats out there are confused right now. You're wondering which way are we going to vote on this important piece of legislation. But let me just clear this up. America First is not about a person, and it's not about an entity or an organization. It is about our country. It is about the love for our country. It's about those 11 million people in Georgia that have a choice when they go to buy their tag. Do they want a standard tag? Do they want a veterans tag? Do they want an organ donor tag? Or do they want an American First tag with our beautiful American flag on it? So you decide how you want to vote on this. I'm going to vote no on the amendment because I want to make this about America first, not some other person or another organization first. I yield the well.
All right, let's go. Let's get rolling here. We're going to take up amendment. Question is on amendment number 1A. Amendment number 1A, which is just a correction for amendment number 1. But amendment number 1A, is there objection? Amendment number 1A. There is objection. All right. All those in favor of amendment number 1A will vote yea. All opposed, nay. Secretary, unlock the machine. Senator from the 25th, what purpose do you rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Does it mean if you vote for this amendment, you're voting for Donald Trump for president?
That's for each and every senator to decide, Senator. On the adoption of Amendment 1A, the yeas are 34 and the nays are 22, so this amendment is adopted. All right. Question is on Amendment 1, authored by the MAGA man himself from the 14th. As amended, is there objection? There is objection. All right. On the adoption of the amendment, those in favor of 1 is amended will vote yea. Those opposed, nay. Secretary, unlock the machine. Recognize Senator from the 56th.
Parliamentary inquiry, Mr.
State your
President.
inquiry.
Isn't it true it's important we vote no to keep America first and make sure we get an important organ donation license plate for the state of Georgia to save lives?
The senator is wise beyond his years. Recognize Senator from the 31st. What
Parliamentary inquiry.
state your inquiry?
Is it not true that Vice President J.D. Vance would approve of the senator from the 14th Amendment?
Senator knows what he speaks. Recognize Senator from the 53rd. What What?
Parliamentary inquiry, Mr.
State your
President.
inquiry.
Isn't it true, as Donald Trump's floor leader, I'll be voting no on this amendment because I believe in America first, not an all-powerful king?
Senator has that right. On the adoption of Amendment 1 as amended, the yeas are 24 and the nays are 32, and so this amendment has failed. All right, on to the underlying bill. Question is on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection to the adoption of the committee substitute? Hearing none, the committee substitute is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none, the report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none, the main question is ordered. The question is on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor will vote yea. All opposed, nay. Secretary will unlock the machine. Senator from the 47th, for what purpose do you rise?
Mr. President, isn't it not true that everybody should have a really great sign that they share so that we can make America great again? There you go, Mr. President.
Senators knows what he speaks. Recognize Senator from the 27th. For what purpose do you rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Mr. President, you said the senator from the 14th wouldn't say his name last year, but suddenly has found his rebirth. Isn't it true that a lot of members of our party wouldn't even say his name last year, but suddenly seem to be big fans of the president?
Oh, wow. Senator has a strong opinion of himself. Recognize Senator from the 26th. Waive it, I'm sorry. All the passages of the bill, the yeas are 33, the nays are 23. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed by substitute. All right, moving on to Senate Bill 293. Secretary, read the caption.
Senate Bill 293 by Senator Anderson of the 24th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 4-2-85.1 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to license plates for certain veterans so as to increase the number of free license plates issued to certain veterans, to provide for related matters, to repeal conflicting laws, and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Public Safety recommends that this bill do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Albers, Chairman. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Recognize Senator from the 24th. The Chairman of Natural Resources.
Thank you, Mr. President. I bring you Senate Bill 293. This is a simple bill, but a good bill. This is for the people that put their lives on the line for us to live in a free country. Our veterans. This bill, all it is, right now they can currently get one tag free. This one makes it to where they can get up to 4 tags free. I ask you to vote green. Thank you. Yield it well.
All right. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? Chair hears none. Is there objection to the previous question being ordered? Chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there objection to the agreeing to the report of committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none. The main question is ordered. Question is, all those in favor of the bill will vote yea. All opposed, nay. Secretary, unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 56 and nays are 0. This bill, having received requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. We have a very special guest here, right here. Look at him. Come on, bring him up here. Bring him up. This is our fine commissioner of agriculture, the thriller from Osceola, right here. This is Commissioner Tyler Harper here. Give him a round of applause. Hey. Say a few words.
All right. Well, good afternoon. It's good to see y'all. I know y'all are working hard, so and I know y'all have only got to a very few bills in the last 4 or 5 hours, so I'm going to be very brief. Thank you for what you do. God bless you. Keep plowing. We look forward to continuing to work with you. God bless you. Y'all have a great day. Thank you.
Good to see you, brother. Good to see you. Stay right here. Always good to have the commissioner here with us. He's a dear friend. He and I got elected together in this body several years ago. You still look young. I don't look so young. All right, Senate Bill 27. Secretary, read the caption.
Senate Bill 27 by Senator Albers of 56 and others. Bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 7, Chapter 5 of Title 16 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated related to stalking, so as to provide for the offense of doxing, to provide for penalties, to provide for a protective order, to provide for civil action, to provide for a venue, to provide for definitions, to provide for statutory construction, to provide for related matters, to repeal conflicting laws, and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Judiciary recommends that this bill do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Strickland, Chairman. Mr. President, Senate Committee on Judiciary offers the following substitutes to Senate Bill 27, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 3, Chapter 11, Title 16 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated related to invasion of privacy, so as to provide for the offenses of doxing and aggravated doxing, to provide for penalties, to provide for definitions, to provide for construction, to provide for a short title, to provide for related matters, to provide for an effective date and applicability, to repeal conflicting laws, and for other purposes. Mr. President, that completes the order.
All right, I recognize the Chairman of Public Safety, Senator from 56.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senators, I stand before you with Senate Bill 27, the Georgia Anti-Doxing Act. Doxing is a contemporary and pernicious form of harassment involving publicizing private information of individuals on the internet, usually with malicious intent. It's a gross violation of your privacy, resulting in emotional distress, reputational damage, and in many cases, physical harm. With the increase of digitization in all of our lives, we need to address this issue head-on as it becomes more urgent and necessary. I want to thank the senator from the 39 who worked on this bill for several years and has been a big part of it, as well as the senator from the 42nd, distinguished chairman of the Judiciary Committee, for helping us perfect this language. The bill is going to combat doxing and create a criminal act for those that commit this heinous act. This legislation recognizes the punishment should fit the crime, but also assures that we do not infringe on free speech, which is specifically outlined in lines 72 to 77. This bill takes a step in the right direction towards securing the digital safety of all Georgia citizens and sends a clear message that Georgia will not tolerate online harassment, is committed to protecting the privacy of our citizens. It also acknowledges the changing landscape of our digital age and takes robust steps to protect and uphold privacy of our fellow citizens. In conclusion, this is a comprehensive, balanced, and necessary piece of legislation to address the pressing issue to our citizens. It's a practical solution to a modern-day problem. I'd ask for your favorable consideration. If there are no questions, I will yield the well.
Questions, Senator?
Thank you.
Recognize Senator from the 39th. Let's speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. President. So I rise today in support of SB 27 because no one, whether a public servant, private citizen, or business owner, should have to live in fear that their personal information will be weaponized against them. As you heard, really, truly, what sets doxing apart from existing cyber stalking laws is the methodical collection of personal data and the calculated decision on what information to release, on which platform, and through which means. Once this sensitive information infiltrates public domains, it becomes nearly impossible to retract it, and it leaves victims vulnerable and exposed. Working with defense attorneys, prosecuting attorneys, this legislation strikes that delicate balance of safeguarding freedom of speech while acknowledging the seriousness of the crime and increases its offenses upon subsequent convictions. This bill is one of those rare ones that has support from across the spectrum, including the Anti-Defamation League and Frontline. I urge you to vote yes in support of it, and I yield the well.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? Chair hears none. Is there objection to the previous question being ordered? Chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Questions on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection to the adoption of the committee substitute? Hearing none, the committee substitute is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none. Report of committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none. Main question is ordered. Questions on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor vote yea. All opposed nay. Secretary, unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 52, the nays are 1. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed by substitute. All right, we got one more bill we're going to do, and then we're going to break for dinner. And so, Secretary, read the caption. Senate Bill 82.
Senate Bill 82 by Senator Dixon of the 45th and others. Bill to be entitled Act to amend Article 31 of Chapter 2 of Title 20 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated, the Charter Schools Act of 1998, so as to enact the Local Charter School Authorization and Support Act of 2025 to provide for local boards of education to reconsider the denial of local charter school petitions, to require the Office of Charter School Compliance to prepare guidelines for local boards of education for the evaluation of charter school petitions, to provide reporting, to provide for related matters, to provide for legislative findings and intent, to provide for an effective date, to repeal conflicting laws, and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Education and Youth recommends that this bill do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Hickman, Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Education and Youth offers the following substitutes. Senate Bill 82, a bill to be entitled Act to amend Title 20 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to education, so as to enact the Local Charter School Authorization and Support Act of 2025 to provide for the State Charter Schools Commission to establish a program for the purposes of promoting and supporting the approval of new local charter school petitions by local boards of education, and to provide incentive grants to local boards of education that approve new local charter school petitions, and for other purposes. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Recognize the senator from the 45th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Bill 82, colleagues, has to do with access to charter schools across our state. Currently, there's 96 charter schools throughout the state of Georgia, and with about 65,000 students that attend. And what Senate Bill 82 does, it addresses the state charter school access issue by incentivizing local districts to approve more charter schools, and it also holds districts accountable for repeatedly denying high-quality charter school petitions. This bill is needed because there are currently 21,000 students on charter school waiting lists throughout Georgia, yet local districts are not approving charter school petitions. In the past 5 years, only one charter school has been approved locally in the state of Georgia. During that same time, the state charter school board has approved over 30 charter schools, which most of those were initially denied by the local districts. And what this bill does, as far as incentives, there's two financial incentives for local school districts. In Section 3, the district who acquire additional capital outlay entitlement credits in the years that they approve a charter school. In Section 5, this allows districts to earn $250,000 per year for a period of 3 years for every year that a new charter school is approved in their district. As far as accountability, that would be in Section 4. And for districts that enroll 10 to 60,000 students, if the district denies 2 charter school petitions within that year and they are laterally approved by the state, the district would be no longer eligible to renew its flexibility contract with the State Board of Education. And for districts that have over 60,000 students, it would be 3 denials before that would happen. Mr. President, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
You have no questions, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the well.
Senator from the 38th, if you'd like to speak to the measure.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, I rise today in support of Senate Bill 82. Many folks would be surprised to learn that a Democrat, in fact, was the president who started charter schools in the United States. President Clinton is the president who signed the charter schools law to make it allowable in the United States. One thing that I wanted to share, I was actually going to offer a friendly amendment to this bill because I was receiving calls about fairness. And I was able to check with the State Charter Schools Commission and confirm that, in fact, the same petition that is given to a local district is given to the State Charter Schools Commission, and that is the decision, that is what they will base their decision upon to determine if they will approve that charter school. Currently, there are over 20,000 kids, many of whom look like me, that are on waiting lists for charter schools. So that tells us that there is an issue in terms of the level of the amount of approvals that are occurring across the state. And so I believe that this bill strikes the right balance. It gives some incentives to our local districts to approve charter schools. I am not only a former charter school principal, but I am also a dad of a former charter school student. My son graduated from a local charter school. He was actually zoned for a very good local high school, but that school was not working out for him. And my son, as a result of attending that charter school, got a full ride scholarship and is now getting ready to graduate from Tennessee State University. So I strongly support Senate Bill 82 and encourage my colleagues to join me. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the well.
All right, sounds like we've got a school choice guy. So recognize the senator from the 35th.
Colleagues, I rise as a former school board member in support of SB 82. I am a supporter of real school choice, so I want to commend my colleagues in this chamber for talking about choice when it comes to public schools, because the reality is that 90% of children in Georgia attend public schools. So if you want to provide families with real options, if you want to provide families with innovative programming for their students, then we should be focused on doing that in our public schools, which is why I am in support of a bill like this. I want to remind you, though, that the vast majority of parents want to see innovation in their schools, but they also support their neighborhood schools. This strikes a good balance. I'm not a fan of using a stick, using some of the penalties that are in this bill, but at the same time, I do appreciate the incentives that are in this bill, and I also like the fact that we are informing parents about what each school system is doing around school choice. Providing parents with that type of information at their hands, at their fingertips, is something that parents desire. At the same time, there's a reason we have to provide school districts with incentives. As my colleague from the 26th always reminds us, it's all about the money. And some districts are not approving charter schools because of the money, the cost. So I'd like to remind my colleagues that we have to update the QBE formula, a formula that is 40 years old. It relates to this very issue. We haven't touched it in our school districts, whether you're in rural Georgia or metro Atlanta, school districts are feeling it. So if we really want to continue this conversation around school choice in our schools, colleagues, let's talk about the money. With that, Mr. President, I yield the well.
Senators yielded. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? Chair hears none. Anyone object to the previous question being ordered? Chair hears none. Previous question is ordered. Question is on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection to the adoption of the committee substitute? Hearing none, the committee substitute is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none. The main question is ordered. Questions on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor vote yea. All opposed nay. Secretary, unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 44, the nays are 9. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed by substitute. Recognizes the majority leader for a motion.
Mr. President, I move that the Senate table the remaining bills and resolutions on the rules calendar.
Senators move. Is there objection? Without objection, they're tabled. You better not. The rules are on the table. Okay. Recognize the pro tem for announcement.
Thank you, Mr. President. We're about to break for dinner. Just want to let you know we've got some good country cooking, vegetables, and all that kind of stuff to sustain us through the evening. It's going to be down in the under the stairwell, the Secretary's Annex that way, but it's fried chicken and lots of good vegetables. So ready for round 2. Hope you enjoy it. Thank you.
All right. We should move faster. We should move faster. We're going to stand at ease, have dinner, and we should be rolling pretty well after we come back from dinner. Probably come back around 7:15 or so, something like that. So, all right. Stand at ease. Senator from the 6th, come to the rostrum.